Mayor, please unmute.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay. So we'll call the first of 4 meetings to order. It's a special meeting of the City Council to consider appropriations. It says we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so I guess we'll get started. We'll get started with one, and then we're going to be done with it.
You're going to do it 4 times?
Right, do it 4 times.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So this meeting is our annual meeting to allocate our budget. I think our budget is for $20,000 to various nonprofits that serve our community. It's always a challenge because we have more good things to fund than what we have money. This year we have $20,000 budgeted, and we have requests for $36,230. So we're going to go through these in the order that they're on the agenda. What we have come to over the years is not having any extensive presentation by any individual group, and the reason for that is that for the most part we know these people already, and if we spent 5 minutes for each group, there's 11 of them, so it would be almost an hour just in listening to something that we probably know for the most part, already know about. So what I'm going to do is ask each one of them who has a representative here to say hi and let us know that they're here. And for anyone who's here, we'll have council can ask you questions or make comments if you want to make comments. So, and then at the end, if there are any other questions that need to be discussed, we can do that. And hopefully we can get through. We have, have about an hour allocated for 3 special meetings. So we need to move along. And that's not to pay short shrift to the importance of this exercise to award this money to these different groups. It's just that we need to be efficient in getting our business done tonight. So with that, we'll start with the Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank. I don't know if I have an RSVP from them. Is someone here?
It's Leanne Leonard.
Leanne is here? Okay, Leanne. So do you have anything you'd like to say in a moment?
My name is Leanne Leonard. I'm the executive director at the Agua Fria Food and Clothing Bank. I've been serving there for almost 8 years. I know many of you are already very familiar with the work that we do, and we're continuing to serve and happy to do it.
Is there any particular thing that is of a problem? I know in the past we've had problems with freezers, or we had problems with pallet jacks and different things that were causing issues with your operation. Is there anything specific that is going on this year?
Facilities wise, we've done a really good job over the last 8 years of updating the facilities and a lot of the equipment that's in the facility. And for those of you who haven't been down in a while, we just completed a $200,000 remodel of our lobby. So I'd love to give you a tour if you want to stop by, and I can show you that. It looks very nice. But this year, our biggest concern is the increase in the cost of our janitorial expenses, obviously due to the repercussions of COVID. So that is what we're specifically talking about for this year.
Okay. Any questions from council? Vice Mayor and Councilman Clare, if you have a question, you're going to have to speak up so I know that you have something.
Understood.
Okay. All right. Seeing none, we'll go to the next applicant, which is Blue Star Moms of the Southwest Valley. Is Teresa here?
My name is Catherine Negretti. I'm going to be representing Blue Star Moms this evening. Can you hear me? Okay. So the Blue Star Moms projects this year, we have two projects. We always do our packages that we send to the troops, and we are continuing that this year. We send roughly 250 packages to the troops, and unfortunately, the postage continues to go up. And most of our items that we send to the troops are donated, but we do pay, as a chapter, we pay for that postage. So that is an ongoing project that we are continuing and would like funding for. And then a new project that we have this year is the beautification at the memorial wall there by the elementary school. And so we were out there working this past weekend, replanting and just trying to get it to be an enjoyable place for people to come and honor our veterans and, just get it so that residents and veterans can enjoy the area.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from council? All right, we'll go on to our next group, which is Catitude Arts. Sandy Reagan here. Sandra?
Can you hear me?
Sandra, now we can.
There you go. Just leave us again. No.
You have to leave the mute off, Sandra.
It keeps coming back on mute. Can you hear me
There you
now? Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff. I just want to thank you all for continuing to provide this service over the years to those very needy programs. Catitude Arts is still providing their main programs in the Southwest Valley. And we continue to partner with different cities in the Valley and to provide those art programs that are needed, and looking forward to your new city center and what's happening with all the growth in the area. We plan on providing more services in the area. Any questions?
Questions from council? Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks
Next,
again.
the next group is City of Avondale. And I always preface the City of Avondale, their presentation, with a reminder to the council that this particular group is obviously our sister city. They provide some much needed services to older adults living in Litchfield Park that need food and other sorts of services that we are too small to provide. So we need to keep that in mind, that generally what they ask for, it does not completely cover the cost of them servicing our residents. So keep that in mind as you go through your allocation of funds. Do we have either Sandy Lopez or Erin Lutz here?
Hi, I'm Erin Lutz. I'm with the City of Avondale. Sorry, I'm here with my child potty training. How fun.
How fun.
We're just hitting our good numbers. We did ask for a little bit more this year because our food costs have gone up tremendously. So we usually spend about $100,000 on food, and we're hitting about 150 this year. So it's just supply and demand. So that's our need. We are seeing a lot of people, and our doors are open, and we're doing a lot of fun activities here at the senior center. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions for council? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next group is Homeless Youth Connection. Is Dawn Bogart here?
I am. Good morning, or I should say good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Dawn Bogart. I'm the CEO with Homeless Youth Connection. And we really appreciate the support that we've received from the city of Litchfield. Primarily, your support goes to help youth who are experiencing homelessness in the Millennium and Agua Fria areas. We provide basic needs and resources. We do have some exciting information. We are actually expanding our program and moving our offices to Central Phoenix, and we're acquiring 10 residential units. we are still operating in the West Valley, and the West Valley will always be our home, and we really appreciate the support we get from the city. Thank you.
Any questions from council? All right, thank you very much. Next group is the Litchfield Elementary School PTSA. Looks like Jennifer Cox. Are you here, Jennifer? Maybe not. She was going to be a few minutes late. Next group is the Historical Society. Nancy, are you here? Yep, there she is.
I am here, and good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. I'm the president of the Litchfield Park Historical Society. I have been for almost 4 years now, and I'm pleased to report that working with the Blue Star Moms, we have completed the memorial itself, and it's repaired, renovated, and shining brightly now. And the funds were all donated for that by the contractor that did the work. So we were very fortunate. And we've also been, we've had a great year. Our newsletter and other events that we've asked for funds in the past to cover are now being covered by various sponsors. We're getting a lot of support from the community, and we're really pleased about that. This year, however, we do have the Las Posadas event that this will be the second year. The first year was a huge success. It's open for free to the entire community, and it focuses on the Hispanic culture and heritage in Litchfield Park. And this year we know it's going to expand further. Budget didn't quite meet it last year, so we are looking to increase it substantially. We do partner with Ballet Folklorico, and it's a great event. In addition to that, as you know, we hand out various publications at the library. We have them available at the Wigwam and at the city, and that is our Historic Litchfield Park Guided Walking Tour booklet. It has been updated once and already, and once the city center is completed, we will of course have a new revised edition. But for now, we'd like to be able to do the third reprint of that, and then we also would like to do the fourth reprint of the P.W. Litchfield quotations booklet. This is quotations from a book, Industrial Voyage, that Mr. Litchfield had written. And both of these booklets, as I said, are given out to visitors to the museum. They're at the Wigwam for visitors. They're available free to community, to anyone that comes in and asks for them. And they are in color. They're good publications, but I think very important to bring the history of this area to everyone. So thank you very much. Any questions?
Questions from council? Okay, thank you, Nancy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next group is the Litchfield Park Little League. It says, was it Jason or Michael? Okay, it looks like they were not able to make it. Next group is the New Life Center, and it's either Jeremiah Smith or Mariah Moon.
Yes, you got it correct. Good morning, or good evening, everyone. My name is Mariah Moon, and I am the CEO of New Life Center. New Life Center is currently the largest domestic violence shelter in the state of Arizona in the West Valley. Unfortunately, we are always at capacity. Right now, we are seeing greater need, trending towards overcapacity due to the pandemic, housing shortage. 70% of our population on campus are children. We have been part of the Litchfield community since 1991, where we were founded and housed in the Wigwam. We appreciate your dedication, support for you supporting the most vulnerable populations in the West Valley. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council? All right. Next group is the Sounds of Autism. Looks like Cricket.
Hi, how
They're
are
in
you? Barrientos. Hi, how are you?
Minnie,
Go ahead.
this is your first year. This is your first year applying, so maybe you should tell us a little bit about your group.
Yes, we've been serving the West Valley, really the state of Arizona and nationally, internationally for over 11 years. But because I worked a full-time job in the restaurant industry, I was only able to do this part-time. COVID hit and it gave me the opportunity to do this full-time. We serve autism families of at-risk children. So it's not just autism, it's anybody that could be considered an at-risk population, but specifically autism, because we're seeing the increase of, I guess it was 286%. It increased in 2006, 2008. And we knew the resources as well as the support solutions were not going to grow as fast as this population was. And our homeless issues and mental health issues with facilities being overcrowded was already an issue before COVID, and now I can't even explain to you the types of calls that I'm getting. That said, we have served also community responders and educational leaders. We've realized that a lot of people want to train officers or educational leaders or community leaders to do something to support, but it doesn't bridge the gaps and it never really completes the mission. I believe that with we work with Goodyear Police Department, Sergeant Tyler, SRO Sergeant Tyler, along with Litchfield School District. We are taking officers inside the classrooms. We're teaching crisis intervention in at-risk population classrooms. We're teaching them from K through 12. We're working with Maricopa Community Colleges, ASU, EMCC, Huntington University, GCU, U of A students, mentoring them on boots on the ground. We feel working with the younger population that's going to be the next generation of leaders and parents, educating them about what they should be looking for before they become that leader or become that parent is going to be the way that we find these kids 0 to 5 when 90% of their brain is being developed. We have done this, like I said, over 11 years. We have 850 plus community partners. We're currently piloting this virtually in Canada and California, and we'll become a national, international program. We'll chapter everything we're doing. I work with my son daily on life skill, job skills, safety skills, and we are creating a workforce development program to help support hands-on boots on the ground, as well as ideas that are not utilizing government dollars to put these kids in homes where they will have a solution for the rest of their lives and the parents can actually die peacefully. So I share all that with you because we have served the Litchfield Park Luke Air Force Base. We trained 50 security forces last year. We're working with multiple agencies, including Avondale. I've been part of their world for a long time. My husband's a Phoenix officer, 13, almost 14 years now. And we are just building educational curriculum, and it's called Train the Trainer Empowerment. We teach people in these different populations how to train one another, utilizing their resources within so that they can, cut budgets, they can cut bottom line dollars that are not going to the bottom line because of whatever it may be. And it's just been very successful. And just to be honest with you, we've helped multiple people, including a girl that's being sex trafficked right now, trying to get out of it, and was learning about our organization because of some of these educational curriculum that we're putting on our digital library. So we have a lot of critical situations that are coming to us, and we're helping getting them the support that they need. So it's been a very successful program. And yes, we have not asked for a dime because we felt like if we could do this with no money, that it would sustain, and we wanted to prove that. So now I'm asking because I'm out of a job. I resigned from my career so that I could do this full time because of the need. So we hope you consider us, but you know what? I know so many people on here that need the money just as much, and anything you can do to help any of us would be a blessing. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Donahue.
Yeah, Cricket, so your population is all autism based, your constituents, so to speak.
No, it's at risk, especially autism. We do at risk of a disability, SMI, dementia. We're working with people in Sun City that are going through different things. My son and his friend right now are piloting a program where we go in and we actually clean houses for people that have, the starting stages of dementia to help support them, but also build a little bit of camaraderie, give them some socialization along with my son and his friend. If this works, we will be going out and working in, the Pebble Creek communities, just sweeping sidewalks and doing things to get them out in the community, but also to offer companionship for those that are suffering. So we go from adult, prenatal, all the way to adult life, final farewell.
So mental health. clearly, okay.
Everything.
Okay, any other questions from council?
Vice Mayor.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Cricket, your proposal says you serve 750 Litchfield residents. That's over 10% of our population. Is that number correct with the city, or is that out into the county areas also? Is that the zip code?
This is, so Litchfield School District is working with us directly. I actually just went to one of your middle schools and worked with and trained and developed 350 of your students already this year. We work with large groups. We support through all of our college programs, helping us get the information out. So some of it's direct, some of it's indirect with mentorship. We're building one of the largest teams you'll ever see, and we're moving very quickly. So all of the work that we're doing to touch these people, whether it's a parent, a community leader, somebody in the autism or at-risk population, responders, educators, whatever it may be, it's all being done virtually, or it's boots on the ground with different people that we're mentoring to deliver information.
Okay, any other questions from council? All right, thank you very much. Next group is Southwest Lending Closet. Ann, and I'm gonna let you speak, Ann, without butchering your name.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Mayor and council and staff. It's a pleasure to be here again. Thank you for your past support. Your dollars for the last several years have funded our vital need of purchasing repair parts for our equipment, primarily brakes and wheels for our knee scooters and wheelchairs. And that's what we intend to do with the funds again this year. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council? Okay, I don't see any. I want to thank all of these groups for coming and presenting tonight, answering our questions that, whatever questions we had. We appreciate all the service you give to our residents and to the whole West Valley. Thank you very much for your service to our community. The process that we've used in the past and will continue this year unless somebody violently objects, is you have in your packet a sheet that is meant for you to put in your allocation of the $20,000 to each of the groups. Get that back to the city manager. City manager will put it in a spreadsheet, and we'll come up with a numerical average that we're not going to go down to like 32 cents, but we'll use that numerical average to come up with, what is the closest thing we can for a consensus. The only thing that would stop that is if we have someone with a tremendously high or tremendously low vote, then we may not factor that in entirely with this consensus number. These numbers will come back to the council at our next meeting, and any council member has the option to amend the numbers to see if they can change the way that the council has allocated the money. Sometimes we end up with some changes, but usually not. So hopefully that will meet with all of your approval. We'll get the numbers into Matthew, and then we'll be ready to next time we meet.
When do we provide, what's the deadline for?
Within the next 5 days.
5 days.
Is that enough? Is that good enough?
No.
You need 7 days?
Yeah, I'm gonna be gone 2 weeks, and I won't be able to.
Well, then you have to get on your computer and fill it out.
I'm not getting on my computer.
Mayor, if I may, we gave you a deadline of May 27th.
You're too lenient with them. They'll never get it done. May 27th, you're still not happy, are you?
1 a.m. tonight. I'll get it.
Wait, who's in charge?
No, it's not me. Today's the 18th, so you have 9 days.
4, I think, too. Do we have access to what we gave last year?
It's all in your packet.
Okay.
Yep.
And dig deep.
We also have a.
Yeah, it's on page number.
For you to put it in so your numbers will.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
We have that spreadsheet.
I will send it to you.
Page number 5 of your packet for this meeting.
Okay, I couldn't find it.
The packet for this meeting's not like inputable.
No, it's not. Yeah, you need the spreadsheet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I looked for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's coming?
It's coming. It'll get there. It'll probably get to your house before you will.
Yeah, on the 26th and a half.
All right, anything else from council?
Vice Mayor.
If not, is there? Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. there's $20,000 apparently allocated, looking at the numbers in this thing that we spent last year. Of the applicants that are here again this year, there's only 16,300. Are we being asked to attempt to apportion out 20,000, or are we being asked to apportion to each of these what we think is a good amount at no more than 20,000? What are you looking for?
The budget is $20,000, so you're being asked to allocate up to $20,000 to the groups that have made applications.
So it's up to 20,000. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Normally, with the exception of one councilman that I can recall easily, it's normally all of the funds are allocated, but there's no requirement to do it. Expect that if one council member did not allocate all 20,000, we would end up seeing adjustments made at the actual council meeting by the other four, who probably would allocate the whole 20,000. But
So split that.
but it's up to you how you want to vote, and once we get all your inputs, we will try to make sense of it and bring it back to you in as much a consensus format as we can.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Otherwise, we're going to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. That special meeting is adjourned.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
All right.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm peachy.
You need a moment to get. We'll take a moment.
I'll tell you what, you're sitting at home on your computer and she's coughing like that. I can't hear.
Yeah. Volume's pretty high.
Ron Claire, which one's next?
Yes.
The village.
Don't forget my charger, please.
Oh, I will get it to you, John.
For tonight, this is just a prop.
That's okay. You didn't want to see what was in the packet.
The charger's probably in Dallas, so
It
may take a while for it to
He
get.
borrowed it because he left his in Dallas and now who knows where it is.
Now yours is in Dallas.
But I haven't seen it for a
If you
while.
need it immediately, I have one next night.
Okay, feeling better?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. All right. Then we'll call to order the special meeting of the Village at Litchfield Park Community Facilities District. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance, so we're going to go to the approval of minutes. The minutes are in your packet. Are there any modifications to the minutes, or is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Yep. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Next item is to adopt the tentative budget and estimate for assessments. Those are in your packet. The estimated assessment for fiscal year 2023 would be $1.23 per hundred, which is the lowest rate we've had for the village since the village was started. Paige, do you have anything you would like to present beyond what's in the packet?
I don't have anything beyond what's in the packet, but Levy will cover the debt service payment and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council about the village CFD budget or levy? Is there a motion to approve or adopt the tentative budget and the estimate of assessment for fiscal year 2023 for the Village at Litchfield Park Community Facilities District, and authorize staff to publish the notice of budget and tax levy public hearing set for June 15th, 2022.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is adopted. Is there a motion to adjourn the CFD meeting?
So moved.
For a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right,
Two down.
we got that done. Lickety split.
Lickety-lick.
The next one's gonna be really difficult to get through. Okay, so we'll call the Litchfield Square Community Facilities District meeting to order. We've already done the Pledge of Allegiance, so the first item is to approve the minutes. Are there any modifications to the minutes? Not, is there a motion to adopt the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the minutes as presented in the packet, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. The next item is to adopt the tentative budget and the estimate of assessments for fiscal year 23 for the Litchfield Square Community Facilities District, and authorize staff to publish the notice of budget and tax levy for a public hearing on June 15th, 2022. As I understand it, the budget is zero and the levy is zero. Is there any discussion? Correct? Easy peasy.
Zero.
Is there any discussion?
Can I get a calculator up?
Can we get, can I get a motion to,
So moved.
Second.
any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
15 seconds.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
We're adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? My golly, we got it done. Look at that.
Wow.
Now we have to wait till
No.
7 to start the meeting?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Immediately following.
Immediate following.
So we are now going on to the regular meeting of the city council. Again, we've already done the Pledge of Allegiance. So we have mayor and council reports on current events. Councilman Clare, do you have anything you'd like to report on?
Just the Maverick tournament looked to be a really great success. I think there was over 400 players and a great turnout at the dinner as well. So good to see that much energy in the community again.
Thank you. Councilman Romack.
Yeah, I would echo what Ron said. I was at the dinner and it lightened my load, I'll tell you. But it was quite a successful evening and we had great fun. So.
Good. Excellent. Councilman Brendan Watson.
I don't have anything this time.
Okay, we'll come back across the table to Councilman Donahue.
Actually, I just want to report on two meetings I went to with Westmark. One was their health summit and the other was their economic summit. And they just do a fabulous job. I mean, I even took notes yesterday. Some of the information, or the information that they present, which isn't necessarily West Valley, but they have all our West Valley data. It's just really outstanding. And I just sitting there thinking, I wish we all could attend those, because the information from housing to, workforce and so forth, it was fabulous, as well as the health summit was held at Midwestern University, which I'd never been to. That's incredible. But it's really impressive what Westmark does, in my opinion, as a West Valley Economic Group, and then just the statistics, which are incredible. They're not all bad. Except we need 270,000 units to facilitate the people that are here and are coming. That's bad. But anyway, I just want to give kudos to them because they really do a great job. Very informative. That's all.
Councilman Stossy.
Nothing to report, sir.
Okay. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week we lost Paul Stuckey, and Paul was on the council for 12 years. Great council member, great friend, did a great job on behalf of the city, as on planning and zoning also. So that's a big loss to all of us, and condolences to his family. The mayor and I were at the church public meeting last night. That's proceeding through the process for zoning amendment. we sat and watched and didn't say anything and just sort of listened to the public input. Tomorrow, there is also an additional meeting on the Scout Lodge for the Planning Committee at Sowers Hall. Anybody who has an interest in that may want to attend and give input. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for your report. I was at the meeting last night with the Vice Mayor, and we were both very careful not to make comments about how what we might think one way or the other about this proposal. And I would caution everyone on the council that you should follow the same rule, because ultimately we're going to sit and make the decision, and if we appear to have prejudged it, then I think it's a disservice to our community. So please, whatever your thoughts are, please keep them to yourselves and have an open mind and listen to both the pros and the cons, because there were both pros and cons spoke last night that had merit and that had a lot of energy and emotion behind them. So just a word of caution. I don't have a new report other than later we're going to talk about a resolution that involves Camelback Road and enforcement of our truck regulations. I can tell you that there was an effort by the Arizona Trucking Association to obtain state legislation that would have had no hearings, no input from anyone other than the Trucking Association, and would have been attached to a bill. It's called an omnibus bill that does cleanup work for ADOT, a whole variety of cleanup things that have to be done so that ADOT can function properly. So it's a bill that has to be passed. It was an example of very poor legislative process, because it would have made changes to state law that had potential far-reaching implications for many cities across the state and many residents across the state. And it was being done with very little input and very little thought, quite frankly. So it's been an interesting couple of weeks trying to come up with this compromise position, which we'll get into in more detail later. Okay, with that, how about the city manager? Do we have a report on current events?
Yes, sir, Mayor and Council. Mayor and Council, you have the report in your packet, so I'll just hit on a few of the highlight items as you see. One, Public Works did the annual Green Waste Spring Cleanup event on Monday, April 11th. About 30 residents participated and brought in 3.3 tons of green waste for that event. Recently, the city engineer and myself met with Councilmember Claire to discuss speeding issues on Villanueva and Old Litchfield. We discussed traffic devices such as islands, speed tables, speed humps, etc. You may have noticed some speed wagons out there recently. There's a reason for that, of course. So we were working on the issue to see what some possible solutions may be. Truck restrictions, the mayor has touched on that. We'll talk more on that later. The city state of emergency for COVID ended on April 20th. They had been in place for roughly 2 years. Just some numbers I thought you would like to know on that. During those 2 years, we did provide up to 80 COVID sick hours for employees before they had to use their own. During that time, our employees used a total of 1,371 COVID sick hours. Some of that was when employees were sick themselves, but also if they had family members that were sick in their immediate household, etc. And the city cost of that employee COVID sick time was $32,295. Just some stats for other information. Other than that, I would welcome questions if there are any at this time.
Questions from council? Okay, seeing none, thank you for your report. Brings us to a response to comments made at last meeting's call to the community. We had comments made by Tom Gall, Tony Smith, and Garrett Prevost concerning the text and the interpretation of text in our city code as it relates to whether RVs can be parked within city limits without full screening from people from the street or from the other neighbors. My comment back is, I think the council took the most appropriate action with this issue because there is a conflict and a confusion over what our ordinance provides. There are people who very strongly believe it provides one solution, and on the other side, we have other knowledgeable people such as our city attorney and our city manager who believe it says something else. So I think by definition, it's unclear. And the best approach is for us to go back and look at this issue as a community once again and decide what is the policy going to be in our community when it comes to things like RVs being parked on side yards. And then once we decide what that policy is, we need to draft language that is very clear what it is very clear language to implement that policy. So I think we're following a proper process to get to a resolution of this issue, and one that I hope our community will support. So.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do we have no other communities that we've looked at that have these types of ordinances that we would agree with?
There's a variety of places that regulate this. I mean, getting language isn't the problem. It's
specific.
Well, I think there was a very clear policy in Litchfield Park that dates back to days prior to the time we were incorporated, that prohibited the parking of RVs out in any areas where they could be observed, like any place where they could be observed by a neighbor or by somebody from the street. The code may or may not have tried to implement that policy. There's argument about that, but either way, over the years since the last 20 years, what's happened is we have ended up with a variety of RVs that are being parked in the city. So what we need to do is go back and revisit this so we can adopt a policy that's clear. This is what as a community we are willing to have in our neighborhoods, and then once we know what that policy is, we can wordsmith that policy with.
So did we change something that was prior to being incorporated and then we didn't enforce it? Or
no, I think people have interpreted this language that's in the code. They interpreted it differently. The interpretation as it was looked at 16 years ago, I think, was different than the way that it's being interpreted today by some people. So I think it's an important enough issue and it impacts enough people that we need to take a very clean look at it again and make a decision, and have the public have an opportunity to make input on it and make a decision. Okay, anything else?
It was a nice letter that we got from Bob Musselwhite.
Yes.
He's pointing out that he's going around the community, and it's not hard to see him. I mean, they're kind of sticking out in the driveways. But I would suggest.
I think once you realize you might look for them, then they're there. If you're not thinking about it, you don't necessarily see them.
One of the things that I would also, and I know this will come up at other times, is people parking other than on their driveway. I mean, I'm doing a job right now, and this guy's got a quad, a Razor, whatever you want to call it, and just parked in the gravel next to his house, and it's unsightly doesn't really express it, but it's just you notice around the community, a lot of people are just pulling off on the side of their driveway and not parking in the driveway. Now maybe there's some sort of a compromise or something that we could do there, but I think that we ought to look at.
Yeah, I think it's something if you're interested in going through it, it needs to go through P&Z and take a look at what our ordinances say, and then let's find out what the community wants.
And I'm pretty sure that for right now you have to park on something paved. It needs to be, if you're going to be parking.
Yeah, some people have circles that are not paved at all. They're rocks, they're granite. So
they shouldn't park.
Well, that's probably circles that a builder like you put in.
Not a problem. We can put in circles. I drive in circles.
All right, we're going to move on to this meeting's call to the community. I think we have one request to speak. I have to get down through all this paper. Looks like we have a request to speak from Joseph Sovich. Joseph, are you here? Let's see him. You know, I bet maybe he's not here because of.
Or he might be one of those telephone numbers, but he's not speaking.
What we'll do is we will see if he's available when we get to agenda item 9E, which is what he was interested in talking about. And if it is, then we will allow him to speak at that time. Okay, so now we go on to our regular agenda. First item is a report from the Goodyear Fire Department. It says Chief Cole. Is Chief Cole here? Yes, he is. I can see him.
I'm Cole.
Chief Cole, you're up. We're going to get a lot of people that are messed up on time.
There he goes.
Sorry, Mayor, just trying to get myself in order here.
All right.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to come report to you once again. So looking at the activity for the month of April in Litchfield Park, we had a total of 50 responses, and that's down from 57 for the as compared to this month last year. Looking over the calls, one call kind of stuck out, and that was one fire that we had on April 6th. And you'll probably remember that was involved some power outages as well. It was kind of a subterranean and transformer fire in the APS system. I spoke to the fire marshal earlier this week, and this type of fire isn't one that he would typically investigate because it is so specialized within the APS system that they handle that themselves. There's no reason to think that cause and origin of that fire is suspicious of any nature. It's a system malfunction, and obviously they undertook the investigation into the problem and the repairs that needed to be effected to get everybody back online. So kind of an interesting fire, though, unusual to see fire coming up from under the ground like that. So it certainly was kind of different for our folks to tackle. Again, that overall call volume, 50 of the 50 calls, 45 of those were EMS in nature, as pretty typical. As far as the average number of calls per 1,000 population, we kind of track between both the cities of Litchfield Park and in Goodyear. We balanced out at 9 per 1,000 for both communities. So that's kind of interesting as well. Typically, those have been running a little bit higher in Litchfield Park than the per capita calls in Goodyear, but they are balanced out for the month of April. As far as other activities, we did have 2 plan reviews, 2 construction permits, and 55 occupancy inspections. And then there was 1 special event inspection, but very active for fire prevention in the month of April. Some of the other activities that we're tracking relate to the care homes, the 2 particular care homes. The Hacienda calls, there were 9 of them. I did investigate with staff. Of the 9 calls over on the Las Cruces address, only 1 of those did not result in a transport. So they all seem like they were, predominantly seem like they were righteous 911 calls for folks that needed to go to the hospital. And then it looks like to me all of there were only 5 total calls for La Loma, and those all resulted in transport. So I think we're, at least for the month of April, we seem to be stabilizing a little bit. We are enhancing our communications with the Hacienda Del Rey management to show them every month what their call volume looked like, and to talk to them about the calls that don't result in transports, to see if there was a way that they might have been able to mitigate that call in a different way than calling 911. So we have enhanced our communication with the staff over there, and we'll continue to do so. So I would just like to take a moment to talk to you about the future of the Goodyear Fire Department as it relates to operations and the relationship with Litchfield Park. Next Friday is my last day working for the Goodyear Fire Department. I'm retiring, and bittersweet. You know, I'm looking forward to retirement, but I sure love my job, and I love my coworkers, and love the communities we serve. So, in that regard, I am you know, going to be sad to leave, but a bright retirement ahead of me. A lot of stuff planned, and I'm really looking forward to that. So I'd like to just introduce you to Acting Deputy Chief Matt Rainey. Matt's on the line with us here. He's been serving with the department for many years. He's been promoted to battalion chief for the last year. He's done an outstanding job as our now A shift commander, battalion chief on A shift. He's a student of the game, and he has really impressed me as an up and coming fire officer. And I know he's going to do an outstanding job as acting operations chief, while Chief Louisi is working in City Hall. So I would have thought that would have ended by now, but he's still working at City Hall. So Chief Wayne will continue to be the acting fire chief, and during that time, Matt will step up and cover operations. So Matt, do you want to say a couple of words?
Oh, I appreciate the introduction. Yeah, I'm got very large shoes to fill in Chief's Cole's spot, but like I said, be patient with me and I'll do my best. So I'm just happy to be here.
Well, again, sorry, sir. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I just say, Matt is the future of the Goodyear Fire Department, and as far as I'm concerned, the future's in very good hands. He's an excellent fire officer. He was an excellent company officer, recruit training officer. His resume is impressive, and his job performance has been impeccable. So you're in good hands, and I feel very comfortable handing off to Matt. So thank you. Again, for the opportunity to serve. It has been a privilege and an honor for me to serve you and the citizens of Litchfield Park.
Well, Chief, we wish you the best, and we hope that your retirement brings you much happiness and fulfillment. You have done a great job for our community, and we very much appreciate the service that you have given to the council and also to our residents, and to our businesses. So thank you very much for your service. We look forward to working with Matt, and we'll continue our relationship going forward. Goodyear Fire Department is an important part of our community, and we are very pleased with the service that we receive from you guys. So thank you.
Oh, I appreciate the kind words, Mr. Mayor, and again, my best wishes for you all and your community. It's just been a great relationship, and I know it's just going to get better going forward. So, best of luck to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the Avondale Police Department report. Chief Espinoza.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and staff. I'm not Chief Espinoza, Sergeant Rios, filling in for him. Chief Espinoza is currently out with a promotion for his son, who's going to be done with 8th grade here. So I'm filling his shoes today. So good evening, everyone. Happy to be here. For the month of April, our team took 247 calls for service that were on that tracker sheet. Out of those, 116 were officer generated. So that's about 47% of the calls. The rest were citizen generated. We did a total of 50 traffic stops last month. Mr. Williams evidenced some of that by saying that there were some issues along Old Litchfield Road. And with the assistance of Public Works, we got the speed trailer deployed out there, and we've been using our undercover vehicles, which is the unmarked black Dodge Charger and a white Ford F-150, and we conducted a traffic campaign along Old Litchfield Road. So we did 50 traffic stops on those. So I think we curbed some of that driving behavior there, and we will continue to do that moving forward. We had 20 flock hits for the month. 7 were for info only. One flock notable event that I'd like to let the council know was it was actually a incident brought forth to us by city management. And there was a gentleman that was going around harassing the public works crew. And with the assistance of Flock, we're able to identify that vehicle. And within 24 hours of that complaint being made to us, we're able to contact that subject, warn him to cease his behavior. He could face criminal charges. And to my knowledge, that gentleman is stopped. So that's another one of our Flock success stories. So we're very, very happy to have that tool like we've been advising since we took over. So thankful for that. One of the notable incidents for the month that I'd also like to talk about tonight was an issue we had at the Panda Express last month. It was all an incident that occurred with employees only. It started off as a sex offense between two employees. There was some unfounded allegations there, but because of those allegations, one of the employees was a victim of a subsequent ag assault the next night. One of the employees sustained injuries, non-life threatening, from the boyfriend of the female who made allegations towards him. That case is currently being investigated by our Avondale Police Criminal Investigations Bureau. We do have a suspect identified. And like I said, that investigation is still ongoing. Aside from that, our officers are out there. I know last month we had a total of 65 community contacts, which is one of the highest numbers we've had. Our officers are out there playing softball with the Agua Fria High School girls team at Turtle Park and just making our presence known. So again, we're continuing loving the relationship that we have with the city, and we really appreciate all the support.
Any questions from council?
I have just a real quick one. When I read your report and you say you captured a vehicle, are you meaning you captured the image of the plate?
Yes, ma'am. So whenever it says it captures a vehicle, that's exactly what it means. It's just that the camera system captures that vehicle. Whenever we make a contact with that vehicle, we'll call it a contact or an interdiction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments from council? Seeing none, thank you for your service to our community. We appreciate it. And we're happy to hear that the chief has a son that's being promoted. That's wonderful. Congratulate him for us.
Will do.
All right, we'll go on to our staff reports. Finance, Ms. Peterson, do you have a report for us?
I do. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Tonight I have the finance report through April. I'd like to start with sales tax report. Retail had a really good month. We were 69% over April of 2021. I went through the detail. I didn't find anything unusual. I just think 2021 was unusually low, because if you compared April to 2020, it was up 15%. So I think this 69% increase is reasonable. Online sales were up 36%. Restaurant and bars were up 49%. Utilities were down 7%, but that's only a couple $1,000. And rentals are up 32%. The other category was down 13%. But overall, including construction sales tax, it's up 32% or $234,000 over April of last year. Year-to-date, sales tax is up 21%, or in dollars, nearly $1.4 million, so very strong year. Our construction sales tax, compared to April of last year, is up 4%, and year-to-date, it's up 29%. And that's all I have for sales tax, so we'll move on to the regular report unless there's any questions.
Any questions?
Oh.
You got to start over.
I have to start over. I do try to talk loud, but it's not loud enough. Thank you. Do you really need me to start over?
I was just joking.
No. Okay. All right.
You're all smacking for you.
Yeah, don't listen to Councilman.
No, you're in person.
Nobody else does,
Fully.
so it's okay.
Okay, now I think everybody will be able to hear me. So the full finance report, like I just went over sales taxes, so we're at 113% of budget. Our state shared is at 92% of budget, and we're 83% through the year, so
doing well in both of those areas. Overall, our total revenues are at 105% of budget, so about 500,000 over budgeted revenues. Our total general fund expenses are 7.1 million or 70%. So our net general fund operations through April, transactions that are posted through April, our revenues have exceeded expenses by 3.7 million. Construction sales tax, we're at 421% of budget. We budgeted very, very conservatively. We've spent just under 1.2 in capital. We've transferred just under 1.5 million to the Litchfield Square Capital Fund for utilities. So that brings us to an ending fund balance of 19.5 million in the general fund. The rec services and special events, all the detail is in the report. I won't go through it unless there's questions at the end. Our special revenue funds, our HERF revenue, so far we've collected just under 394,000, or at 92% of budget. We've spent just under 112,000. There are some projects in the work, but with delay in materials and things, it's unlikely that we'll get those projects completed by the end of June. So those will roll forward to next fiscal year. So our balance in the HERF fund at the end of April is 1.4 million. The Litchfield Square Capital Fund, transactions that have posted through April are 6.5 million. I mentioned earlier we've used 1.5 million of general funds. The rest is with the bond proceeds. In our street lighting improvement funds, the assessment revenue, we've collected 164,000. We've spent 190, so there is a deficit of 26,500. However, these revenues take a little while to post because looking back through prior years, the collection rate on the SLIDs is over 99%. So by the end of the year, this number should balance out. And that concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Questions from council?
Yes. We got funds from the federal government, I think like $1.5 million or something like that, and it's supposed to come in 2 payments, but it has to be spent by 2025. 25? Just as you said, what if we, is there any repercussions if we don't get it all funded and spent in that time frame?
Yeah, if we don't spend it by 2025, I think we would have to give it back. But in our capital improvement plan budget, we have allocated a couple of projects, so we will spend 100% of the funds.
Okay.
Maybe even by the end of next year.
Okay. But just getting material, sometimes it becomes difficult. And so
yeah, we're going to be a couple years ahead, though.
Scheduling is not the easiest thing.
We'll have it spent a couple of years ahead of time.
I'm sorry, I thought that money had to be spent by 2025.
25.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you're talking 23?
Yes.
That was spent? Okay, excuse me, I wasn't listening.
Say it again.
Any other questions from council? All right, thank you for your report. Next item is an update.
I have a question. Why do we listen to Romac?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't need this review.
Yeah.
I can sit at home.
And Tom, don't use the word "we."
Okay, I'm sorry.
You should say "I." Be accurate. All right, next item of business is Litchfield Square update. Mr. Scouten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. We're finally seeing some curb and gutter installed on Litchfield Road.
How is that ever going to work out there?
I'm sorry?
I'm looking at that curb and I'm going, man, there's just no way that curb's in the right spot. I think your surveyor's got a broken transit.
We always have that on the construction project. Yeah, you built that in the wrong place. We'll see. But if you notice, there's gaps in the curb and gutter. And the reason for that is that we're still waiting for APS to get out there, and they finally did de-energize the original lines, and now we're waiting for them to reinstall the new power lines to get them out of the way of the curb and gutter and the pavement. So just when we thought we were over those issues with APS, we now found out that they failed to order for us 3 very large concrete manholes that are now starting to hold up the internal work on the project. So right now, we're at about 21 and a half weeks of delays that we can attribute to APS's.
Are we just at their mercy?
Yes. Yes.
Like, there's no penalties, or, you're just at their mercy?
Call
I threatened to send them a bill, so.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
$1 million.
So anyway, we're trying to work through that, but, it's just, very, very frustrating.
21, so did you say 21 weeks? So like 5 months?
And counting.
Criminy. Wow.
And, I've talked to their community liaison person. I've been going there, but, from her, I just got a lame excuse about availability of concrete. We just poured some curb, so concrete's not that hard to get.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we're now looking at another, because of my concern about ongoing APS delays, we're now looking at another alignment for undergrounding the airline canal so that we have room to put in a parking garage up on the south side of Fairway Drive. The reason for that is because there's a couple of utilities in the way, but there's also the existing transformer that serves Scow Lodge, so that has to be moved before we can come in and do that undergrounding of the canal. So now that I know that we can't trust APS to move that in time, we're looking at moving the canal relocation to the north side up into Fairway Drive. So we're working on that. As you know, we put out a request for proposals for parking garage design build firms. We got back 2 statements of qualifications from very highly qualified firms, so I'm very excited about that. I expected maybe 3, but I'm glad to have 2 from these 2 firms. So those are in the process of being evaluated by our selection committee.
Who are the firms?
Kitchell and FCI. They have both built many parking garages. That's good news in that regard. We're also working with Richard and Tricia and some other, the other guy over there in the blue shirt, on planning for some new RBG lighting for end receptacles for medians in Litchfield Road and Ringgold Boulevard, downtown area, so that they will tie in and be the same systems as we have on Litchfield Square. Planning to have on Litchfield Square.
Are you counting on APS to do that?
No, we're doing it.
Richard's doing it.
Okay.
Yeah. With regard to the park, we've been meeting to identify some ways that we can enhance some of the features of the park so that we can provide enough room for the downtown events to move over to the park and have enough room for tents and, all of the stuff that goes along with those events. So that's moving ahead. On the agenda tonight is an item was on the wire that we're going to ask the council to table because they're not quite ready to move ahead with it, but they have asked to, under their new license agreement, to provide internet services to Litchfield Square. It's a little late in the game, but I think we can accommodate them. Go ahead and get their conduits installed. And then finally, we're working with the church to move their existing exit driveway over to the west side of their lot, their property. That's all I have.
Okay, any questions from council?
A quick question about the exit.
The driveway that currently exits out onto Cottonwood Street, which is going to become the future Village Parkway.
Okay.
That's a one-way exit out of the driveway.
Gotcha. Oh.
We've been accommodating that in our design for the streets,
Yeah.
but they have said to us that they want to try to move that over to the west side, which will work. We can make it work. It's just a matter of working through the details.
Okay, any other questions for council? All right, thank you for the report. Next item is a crane plume. We had wanted to put the crane plume in, in the packet, so we got the information.
Yes.
But in terms of presentations, what we really need to know is if anything has changed to the bad.
The quick summary is no.
Okay.
Monitoring has been pretty consistent. The results have been consistent for like the last 3 quarters.
Okay.
We're not getting any worse right now.
We had spent many years getting into the weeds on where exactly what every reading was and whether it was getting closer or not closer to our lake. And I think the concern, it was expressed by the vice mayor, if I recall correctly, but mainly we want to make sure that we're getting some reports on a regular basis. And we need to have anything that becomes at all more negative than it is today. So if anything gets worse, we'd like to know that, so that we don't get back. We don't want to get back to the situation we had 5 or 6 years ago, where we actually were having an issue with our lake being threatened by the plume.
Okay. And we are going to do yearly, biannual or annual testing of the lake and the well, just to make sure nothing.
Good idea. So we have that material in our packet. Are there any questions from the council, specifically to you, Mr. Vice Mayor? Is there any information you'd like to have?
Yes, thank you. The reports were fantastic. It looks like that the remediation that has been done over a number of years has moved that line that was approaching the lake back away from the lake. There was a progression northbound of that plume, and the current maps show that plume actually has retracted back a little bit. And the whole history of that, the reason it started moving northbound was it used to move. It went north, and then the fish took out toward Pebble Creek when that was farming, because those irrigation wells were sucking it, fish sucking it, and fish sucking it to the west. And when the irrigation well stopped and Pebble Creek was built, it proceeded northbound and was heading straight to the lake. So it's great to see the information, see it's come back a little bit. There's something in those reports, though, that if you could look at and get back, I would like to know. There are 2 areas of concentrated contaminants, one's shown on 42 and one's shown on page 68 of our packets. And one of those is very clearly associated with the properties, down Van Buren, south of Van Buren, that created the plume. But there's also one massive concentration that's showing up just, I think it's south of the Goodyear Park. And I'd like to know where that came from and why it's even there. That's a rarity. We've never seen that before.
Vice Mayor, sorry. Go ahead.
I think he's done.
Vice Mayor, I did check some historic information, and that general concentration has been there, but you are correct that recently the concentration numbers have gone up. So where it actually used to be yellow, it's now becoming orange. I have reached out to the PGA members and the EPA to ask that exact question. So when I get some information, I will share it with council.
Yeah, we just like to make sure that massive concentration does not move forward northward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for looking into it, and obviously want to stay on top of it and let us know if anything changes.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to go on to the consent agenda. We're going to remove off of the consent agenda item 8G. Is there anything else on the consent agenda that any member would like to take off and have discussed? If not, is there a motion to adopt? I'm sorry, yes, Mr. Vice Mayor?
I don't want to take it off, but I just want to make a real quick comment on that street sweeper. There's about $8,000 to $10,000 of sales tax in that deal that's going to come back to the city. And I think this is an out-of-state vendor of some sort. So I'd just like our staff to kind of keep an eye on that, just to make sure that does come back to us.
We sure will, sir.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt consent agenda items 8A through F?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, items 8A through F are approved. Item number G, we need to, was said that we need to table it. Is there a reason we really need to, do we need to table this, Mr. City Attorney?
Well, if you do a formal motion to table it, then it brings it back at the next meeting.
Is that what we want?
Yes, they want it, yes.
All right, so is it,
Is the person that wanted to speak about that 9? Or
it's
somebody?
8G, no, this is not, this has to do with this license agreement for Zona. So is there a motion to table item 8G?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, item 8G is tabled. Now we'll go into our normal business agenda. The first item is A, approval of waste management CPI increase. This is Mr. Williams.
Mayor, Council, would you like me to join you as well?
Please.
Thank you. I don't believe that Clark is on the call with us. My understanding he was sick and couldn't be here tonight. So Mayor and Council, you may remember on Waste Management's contract, they have the right to get 0.85 of CPI annually, so they get that increase automatically. That increase on the current rates would have been $1.17 monthly increase. However, as we know, all costs are going up right now, so they have requested to actually get 100% of CPI or an additional 20 cents. So rather than the monthly rate going up $1.17, it would go up $1.37. So we did discuss this waste management. I don't have an issue with this. Again, we certainly know the cost of everything is going up. And again, that would start July 1. Again, it's a 20-cent increase over what they would get anyway, which would be $1.17. Another thing to remember on waste management is we will be going out for bid for waste management over this winter and decide which contract we want to go with beginning in summer of 23. So just something to keep in mind. Again, we'll be going for RFP this winter. Any questions on that increase?
Questions from council, comment? Mr. Vice Mayor.
You know, I've lost count of how many times over the years they've come back to us and asked for increases. We would be at probably a significantly higher number if we had agreed to all these increases over this time. I looked at the information that was given to us from Waste as to how the CPI was supposed to be calculated, and it made no sense. They were talking about using numbers that aren't even out yet, published by the Fed yet. So there's a mistake in that formula or something somewhere. So I couldn't verify that what they were asking for was what they were entitled to. And Matthew, I presume you've crunched this and looked at it and maybe looked at the contract, and because I don't, whatever they're telling me, I'm giving it no weight because I've dealt with these guys too many times over the years.
Yes, sir, I understand. The contract does allow, sir, for the 0.85 of CPI, the Consumer Price Index.
Yes.
And one thing I would say that you may know, or I'm sure you do, it's not standard CPI. It's a narrow set of CPI. There's CPI that's used for utilities, so that's what this one is. So that again, the 85 they would have got would have been $1.17. This one they're asking for would be $1.37. And I don't have an issue with it, sir. I would support it considering the cost, and from discussions we've had with them frequently. They have before considered an extraordinary rate increase. I wouldn't consider this extraordinary rate increase just by the amount. And I'm going to be honest. I think that when they put in the bid next winter, I think we're going to see a big jump anyway.
Yes.
But I think that will be from anybody the cost of everything. You know that.
So is there a motion to permit an increase of, for waste management of 100% of Consumer Price Index as opposed to 85%?
I have a question first.
Okay.
We have pickup in our neighborhood Tuesdays and Fridays. Are we looking at doing just one pickup a week instead of two?
That'll all be done through the RFP process.
That's the RFP, so it's the next.
At this point, we're not making any changes.
Okay.
and Councilman, to that question, we brought that to council last year and discussed that.
Yeah.
And everybody seemed to want to keep it at twice a week, because I had numbers from Waste Management, it would have brought it down several dollars to have done that.
Right.
But basically, the consensus seemed to be that prefer to pay and keep it twice a week.
I live in a cul-de-sac of about 10 homes, and I bet there's only one of those 10 that puts out trash on Friday.
Yeah.
I think it very much depends on the people. I talked to some people that say this, that they never use it, and I talked to some people that say they put out 10 bags every time. I don't know how, but.
I can tell you that my next door neighbors, if you did it once a week, you wouldn't be able to see their house
It'd be in your yard.
one day.
It'd be in your garage.
It's amazing. There's a pile that's, I don't know, how tall is this pile? That's 5 feet tall.
25 feet.
Big.
I think it largely depends on the size of the family, obviously. And
Yeah.
you're living in a community that's largely
Yeah.
retired
Two.
people like us.
This side.
Yeah.
And families have put out a lot more
And then they
dirty
get-
diapers and food containers.
Thank you, Jesus.
We
Yeah.
pay for a lot for service in this city compared to some other rally cities. But the two main factors why we do that, one is because of twice a week pickup, and also in-ground cans. Because according to Waste Management, it takes twice the time to empty an in-ground can that it does that once with a robotic arm. And of course, if you know operations, with a rolling can, they have the robotic arm that picks it up, unloads it. It doesn't require a person other than a driver. Or in-ground can, somebody has to actually get off the truck, go out and get it, throw it back in, et cetera.
I thought we took care of that, didn't
No.
Well, we've talked about it, and we had didn't you go out to the community?
Yes, sir, we did. We
Do you recall?
did a survey of people that had in-ground, and overwhelmingly, they wanted to keep in-ground
we?
cans.
It was like 22 of them, right?
Yeah, I actually had people in tears
No.
over the idea of getting rid of in-ground cans.
Yeah, they were.
There's 51 units over at the peninsula, and they all have,
It's more than.
and they all have 2 in-ground cans.
So we're kind of getting off topic because it's only
Oh, yeah.
agendized for the CPI.
Let's try to get it back on this.
22.
I make the motion we were looking for.
All right,
To
so
go
move.
ahead and give them 100% of CPI.
All right, is there a second? All right. Is there any further discussion? Any other comments, Mr. Vice Mayor?
I'm voting no, but no, I have no more comments. If we vote no, they're gonna get their 85% no matter what. And the 85, and
Right.
this is what we contracted for with these guys. They're getting their increases based upon inflation anyway. That's what the CPI increase is all about. They just keep coming back asking for more and more bites at the apple over and over and over.
And I happen to agree with you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I think we should just stay with what our contract is. Because if we wanted something more from them that wasn't in the contract, I can guarantee you, we would not get it just by asking for it.
But this is just for 6 months, right? Till the.
For whatever
people
period of
finish.
time it is. Why should our residents pay more than what we contracted for?
For 1 year, man.
Fuel costs have gone up dramatically.
Yeah.
would
I
imagine.
understand there's a variety of
Yeah.
economic pressures that go throughout our entire economy.
That's what the CPI increase is about. That's what.
We negotiated this term with them, and I think we should stay with it. If they want to come in here and present some extraordinary case that diesel fuel has gone blah blah blah, and they're going to go out of business, but I doubt that that's the case.
20 cents a month? That's all they're asking for?
20 cents additional, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, it's not a huge amount. Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Nay.
Nay.
So the motion carries 4-3. So they're gonna get their 20 cents.
Oh, you voted no?
Here, I got
I
a
voted
quarter.
no.
That was your
I'll
no?
give you a quarter for 1 month.
I just, I have negotiated and been around Waste Management for decades, and they are very, very difficult to do business with. They do a great job.
They do a good job.
And I'm very happy with them, and I would tell you that I would do everything I could to see us renew our contract with them. Because of all the different waste companies that are out there, they are the most professional, and they have done a fantastic job in our community. But I can remember negotiating this contract, and it was it's a slugfest. I mean, we have an agreement. Let's just stay with the agreement. It's going to come up in a few months, and we'll
fight it out then.
Yeah, they're not going to give us credit in a few months from now.
They're gonna make millions.
Because we were nice to them now. Yes.
Who said nay?
Nays were Councilman Claire,
Faith, and
Vice Mayor, and the Mayor. Okay. Moving right along, we have a request to approve the tentative budget for 2023 in the amount of $48,665,240. I almost can't say that number, it's so big. But I'm willing to have Paige tell us why it's a good idea.
It's called an even 50.
Yeah. All right, why didn't we round it up?
For the mayor,
Yes.
for the decimal point.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have just a very brief presentation because we've gone through all the details in our last study session. I'm sorry, I don't have hard copies tonight, but it is very brief.
It'll be faster than it takes time to pull it up.
Might be.
So is it just coincidence that we have budgeted exactly our expenditure limitation amount?
We are.
Just happened that way?
I had to look for some exclusions to get us to that, to that point. Okay. So just to recap on the budget adoption meeting tonight, we're asking you to adopt the maximum expenditure, and then we'll publish this for 2 weeks and publish the place and time of the public hearing, which will be on June 15th at the regular meeting. At that time, we'll do the final budget for the city, the SLIDs, and the CFDs. Also adopt the 5-year capital plan. Tonight, we already did the position roster and the salary ranges. And then in July, we have to do the final step for the special districts and adopt the tax levy. So the official budget forms, those are included in your packet. It's Schedules A through G. And Schedule A is a summary of all of the schedules. The mayor pointed out our expenditure limitation this year is $21,272,984. Our total budget is $48,665,240. We can, I've estimated our exclusions, so our amount subject to the limit is our limit. So this is probably going to be possibly one of the first times the city's ever had to watch our expenditure limit. So we have roughly $10 million that we can spend over our normal operating budget with city savings, city reserves, because we can exclude purchases that are made with bond proceeds. So that's when we'll have that discussion, how much the city wants to issue bonds for, because we will be limited on city savings. Our total financial resources available is $76,933,882, but only including expenditure capacity of the $48,665,240. A large chunk of that is almost $34.3 million for capital that we went over last month, and then the debt service of $1.8 million, and then the special revenue funds of just under $1.9. And so that is how we end up with 48. I do want to point out in that total financial resources available number, the 76 million, we did budget for revenue in case the state does allocate any funding for Camelback Road. The latest estimate I had was 16.5 million, so that was the number that I put in the budget, because we'll have to see what happens with that. There wasn't a need to change the CIP budget for Camelback, because everything that we had already included in there should be sufficient. We didn't need to add any more, plus our CIP budget was already substantial. Anybody have any questions on that before?
Questions from council? Okay.
Next slide, please. Just a quick overview. And this is all funds, so it's the general fund, HERF, and our other special revenue funds. Our operating budget is $10,349,660, which is an increase of 9.32%, or about $882,000. A lot of that was in salaries with the 8% cost of living, the 2% merit, and then we added 4 positions in public works. Capital, compared to last year, is about $3.7 million more, or just under 12%. And then the debt service, the net of that is an increase of $732,000. Last year, we had budgeted for a debt service payment if we issued the full $26 million. This year, we budgeted capacity for a $1 million debt payment if we do decide to issue bonds throughout the year. And then contingency, it's decreased 54% or $1.8 million. The reason for that is there's a lot of contingencies already built into the Litchfield Square budget and the capital budget. So it didn't seem necessary to have our specific contingency that high. So there's $1 million for capital contingency and then $600,000 for operating contingency, which is what we did this year.
You didn't think you needed contingencies for the contingencies?
Correct. It felt like we had enough contingencies. The state expenditure limit went up 4.6% or just under $935,000. They do adjust that every year based on inflation and population. Slide, please. Just a reminder that our budget is balanced. We ensure that our ongoing revenues cover our ongoing expenses. We make sure our one-time expenses are covered by our one-time revenues, our savings, and revenue bonds if we choose to do that. We'll have approximately $10.5 million from the 2021 bond proceeds for Litchfield Square. And then I've included enough budget capacity to issue bonds for CIP projects that include the parking garages, the Public Works facility, and City Hall offices. And with all of that, the city still has very strong reserves of $5.9 million. That's actually restricted in the legal budget forms. We can't spend that, which is 50% of the year, 6 months. And we still have $11.8 million remaining in unassigned general fund balance. And that is all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Questions from council?
Well done, thank you.
Oh, really?
Okay, is there a motion to adopt tentative budget proposed for fiscal year 2023 in the amount of $48,665,240 and authorize staff to publish the notice of public hearing for June 15th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item, you might as well not leave.
Say, that's me.
Nice try.
I forgot.
Swing around that
One
chair,
more
start.
budget.
She's
Street-
back.
Street Line Improvement District tentative budget for fiscal year 23.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This will be our last budget of the night, and it's a pretty simple one. We have our 3 street lighting improvement districts. The levy for SLID number 1 is $35,035 with the rate, estimated rate. The county does a final valuation in August, so this might change. But I'm estimating $45.77 per 100. SLID number 2, $153,618 with the estimated rate of $45.63. And then SLID number 3, $40,006 with an estimated rate of $29.21. Answer any questions if there are any.
Questions about the SLID budgets?
That changed much from last year? I don't recall.
Slightly, because it's based on actual usage, and then we keep a little bit of a reserve as a contingency. So SLID number 1 last year was $34,724. This year it's just over $35,000. SLID number 2 last year was $155. This year it's $153, so that one's down. And then number 3 last year was $39,210, and this year it's $40,000.
Okay.
So really close.
Yeah,
Collection rate is around 99%, so
pretty well covered.
it's well covered, yeah.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the tentative budgets and estimates of assessments for SLIDs 1, 2, and 3 for fiscal year 23 and authorize staff to publish the notice of budget and tax levy for a public hearing on June 15th, 2022?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item is an offer to purchase easement rights for Litchfield Square. Mr. Scouten.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As you know, we have been trying for some time to obtain an easement at the southwest corner of Village Parkway and Litchfield Road to allow us to move a sidewalk into that area, which will make room for the roundabout that we're getting ready to construct. We also need a temporary construction easement next to us so that we can, have a place to work and put the forms and so on. We've been trying for quite a while, several months, to get the Wigwam Town Partners who own that property at that southwest corner to donate the easement to us, and haven't gotten any results. So this is ordinance 22-259, which will authorize staff to present a formal offer to the Wigwam Town Parcel, the owner, to purchase the easement rights for that sidewalk easement and the temporary construction easement for $12,043 for the permanent easement and $1,014 per year to rent the temporary construction easement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We had the easement rights appraised, and I reviewed the appraisal, and they had the removal of two mature palm trees in there, which is not accurate. So we had them revise it down to one tree removed, and that brought the appraisal down to $12,043. So the ordinance that's attached provides the ability for staff to move ahead with a formal offer to purchase, and if that fails, then we can move ahead with other options such as condemnation.
Okay.
So we own it. If they accept this, then we own it.
No, we just have an easement over it.
Oh,
No.
We have to pay them to use it,
That's right.
and then we pay them $1,000 a year.
Just for a
No,
short
just-
time.
we're
Oh,
just
just
gonna
during the construction.
Pay them
yeah.
$1,000
Okay.
during the time of construction.
Gotcha. So
So that,
here you go. We're gonna use it. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, we won't own it though.
so if they don't accept our offer of $12,043, then the ordinance authorizes us to move ahead with
Because we would love for them to come back and say, don't worry about it, we'll just give it to you,
They've
right?
had plenty of opportunities.
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna do that.
Do you have someone that you're able to talk to, or is there a contact person from JDM that, if you take this proposal or this offer, I mean, you gotta be able to talk to somebody in that, can make a difference.
Well, we have people we can talk to, it's not that there are people who it's not like we can't, that we don't have a contact person for the owner of the property. We have contact people for it, all the way up through Jerry Colangelo. But, we're at the stage now where, we say, well, we need you to do this, or let's work out a deal on this, and you don't get no response. And we can't keep building our roundabout if we don't get a response. I mean, it's gonna hold up the whole street.
Sure.
So the only way to move it off of Ted Center is get it appraised and you make a formal offer, so that either you accept the formal offer or we negotiate something, or we condemn it.
So, but I think what I'm getting at is the condemnation process is not gonna be, that's one that takes some time.
Yeah, we don't wanna go down that road, clearly. But
if I can explain, although the condemnation process takes time, there is the ability to, at the beginning of the process, to obtain an initial order from the court obtaining immediate possession.
we can get it right away, we just have to figure out how
delay
much
the
paper.
process. So then typically what happens is the court will issue the order of immediate possession, we move forward with our work, and then we go about litigating or arguing the value of what that property's worth.
Okay.
It's not a matter of them being able to not sell it to us. The only question is how much do we have to pay?
How much? Yeah, but I just want to be sure that we're able to go, we don't need another 21 weeks
No.
of waiting around for JDM.
And the whole reason I started them on this process is just because obviously, when we get to this point, we got to get something done.
Got to do it.
And so we don't have any choice.
Just to add on to what John's saying, so say you're Mel Schultz and we've come to you and we've said, hey, this is a situation we'd like to, has he said, oh, let me talk to someone else? Or we haven't even, have we, are they passing it around? Is that basically what's happening?
The informal response is, well, why don't we trade giving us our apartments and everything we want across the street, and then we'll give you this easement and we'll talk to you about the easement you need for your
I just
wall.
want to hear that you've had that conversation.
We've had conversations,
Okay.
and that's what
Okay.
and we're going, no, that's really not an appropriate trade.
Okay.
We're not gonna trade that way.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
not the deal.
Yeah.
And so, well, then we're doing, okay, fine. Let's
Okay,
just
yeah,
go through the
that's what I
process.
wanted to hear. I didn't want to hear that so-and-so's talking to so-and-so and nobody, we didn't talk to the wigwam. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've talked.
Okay, cool.
And the goal here is to, now that we have a number, to be able to try to negotiate that price. But the reason for the ordinance as well is, so if those negotiations fail, we don't
We can
have to
still
come
start.
back to council and start over
Right.
and get that authorization to start the condemnation process if we have to.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we do not want to go down that path.
Right.
Absolutely do not.
But it is an option.
But
We got to have other.
It's the final option, okay, because we don't want another thing holding up the construction.
We're trying to be copacetic. We prefer that.
We're doing everything we can.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Joe, as I look at that appraisal is for a fee easement, for a fee title, not an easement. And I keep hearing bounced around that we're buying an easement, that we're buying the property, we're buying something. And I think what this offering, this appraisal is for fee title, not an easement. So.
The appraisal, I read the appraisal also. I thought it appraises the fee title in this piece of land, not an easement on it.
Right. But all we need is an easement. So if we can negotiate an easement, great. If not, we have the appraisal that we need as backup for the offer on the condemnation process. Which
For the
is
fee
title.
A fee title.
So if we go down the condemnation route.
That's fine, as long as we have flexibility to do both.
We've got them both.
Easement is all we care about, but if we can't get that, and we're gonna pay them what this appraisal says, then that's the fee title on that property.
And then do we own the property at that point?
If we have to
Or
go through
just-
condemnation, yes.
Yes.
I think we have to maintain it.
Any other questions from council? Okay, is there a motion to adopt ordinance 22-259 and issue a formal offer to Wigwam Town Partners LLC for the purchase of a permanent easement and temporary construction easements at the southwest corner of Litchfield Road and Village Parkway?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion?
If we could do a roll call, just because it's an ordinance.
Sure. So would you do a roll call, Ms. City Clerk?
Mayor Schultz,
Aye.
Councilmember Rostozzi,
Aye.
Councilmember Donahue,
Aye.
Councilmember Romack,
Aye.
Councilmember Bernard Watson,
Aye.
Councilmember Claire,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Faith.
Aye.
Thank you.
The motion is adopted. Next item is 9E. It's an adoption of resolution 22-521, temporary stay of through truck restrictions on Camelback. This is an item that we are going to be discussing also in executive session to get advice of council on. But before we go into executive session, we had a request to speak by Joseph Sovich. I don't know if Mr. Sovich is here or not.
I believe he is on the phone. And
You
we
think he's
also
on the
have
phone?
a couple of others that are on the phone that want to speak on this item.
Do they send in?
They did not, they were directed to call in by council members.
By a council member? Oh, okay. All right. So who's on the phone besides Mr. Sovich?
John Conley, I believe,
Who else besides John Connolly?
his spouse, I believe, is on there as well.
Rhonda was on there earlier.
Is there someone on there on the phone other than John Connolly, and Joe Sovich that wishes to speak to the council on this issue? Okay, so I'm gonna recognize, what, I'm sorry, did I hear something?
That was me just tapping on this.
You, all right.
As well.
Anthony Park, all right. I'm gonna recognize you to speak on this issue because it is a very important issue to the park and the residents. But I do wanna, just let you know, and also let whatever council member suggested you just call in and speak, know that the procedure that we have in place for speaking requires you to send us, you have to go through the city clerk and fill out a request to speak form so that we have everything properly documented. So it's a matter of following our procedures, and I would prefer in the future to do that. So whatever councilman suggests you call in, the procedure is to first fill out this request to speak form through the clerk, and then we're happy to recognize you. But given that, we're gonna eliminate that procedural item tonight, and we'll start with Mr. Sovich. Are you here, Mr. Sovich? All right, then we'll go to John Connolly. You were here for a moment, John. What happened?
I just got reconnected.
I think he's gone.
You gotta unmute, John.
Unmute.
Am I unmuted now? Thank you, I'm unmuted now. Apologies for that. I'm at the Wigwam. The signal's not the best when it fights with Wi-Fi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. First of all, I want to clear that up. I was asked, just given a heads up, to dial in. They didn't ask me to speak by any means, so sorry if that came through that way. I just asked to speak, if that's okay.
It's fine to speak, and we welcome comments from the community. I'm just pointing out that we do have a procedure that we need to follow, because otherwise it can get out of hand very quickly. So just in the future, if you'd like to speak, just let the city clerk know, and we'll get a form filled out for you ahead of time.
Thank you. So my apologies. Joe is a member of our community also, so everybody on is from Litchfield Green, so I'm not sure if they're going to want to speak after I do, but I just want to share 2 minutes. And Tom, this is the #1 issue when we got voted into the board a few years ago, and I appreciate your expediency on meeting us on this issue a few years ago. It's been slightly disappointing and heartbreaking to watch all of the roadblocks put in the city's way. So that being said, I think we do have some missed opportunities for information, possibly. I think there's a lot of communities that border Camelback Road and Litchfield Road, and everyone's got their own perspective on how it impacts them. It would be nice if we had a way to harness all that information. I know I've had informal conversations with some folks on the board, but I don't feel it's been the best way to capture everything. So I'm wondering if the city would consider, possibly having a local advisory board associated with this, or if there's an advisory board that's already been created that this topic can be sort of handed off to, as far as getting information, finding out everybody's interests, wants, needs, and desires to deal with, the fight we have ahead. To me, it's free information. It'll just get some different perspectives, and then hoping we don't have to get to the point where we're dealing with mitigations only, that maybe we have a plan B or C in process. So that's question #1. And the other question I have is on the legal side, if the city has given any consideration to potentially hiring a lobbyist firm to work with the legislature pending possible legal issues down the road that may come back.
I guess I'll respond to your two questions, and this is that my response is dependent upon the final adoption after council receives legal advice from our attorney. But what is contemplated in the resolution is that we will go through a process of obtaining information and data that will define the anecdotal information that we have from our residents about the impact of truck traffic on Camelback on their lives. So that data will include sound studies, vibration studies, traffic counts throughout the 24-hour day. It's traffic counts related to specific classes of vehicle. It may well also include, to the extent that we can identify it, the source of the vehicle itself, where's it coming from, and where's it going to. So we have some idea of, so we can characterize that traffic. Once we have that data, then we are committed to a public process in which we will present the data to the citizens. We will solicit citizen input in these public hearings. We will give the Trucking Association the ability or the time to also come to these public hearings and make their presentations. So we want to solicit as much comment as possible from all of those who are interested in the final decision on this problem. We have stated in the resolution that we have stated in slightly different words, but what the words say are that if we're going to allow through trucks on Camelback Road, then we must be able to identify adequate mitigation strategies that will provide reasonable accommodation and reasonable mitigation for the residents, as well as identify a source of funding for those mitigation efforts. If we can't do those two things, then we're going to be back at the step of imposing restrictions. That's what the resolution is all about. So hopefully that answers your question. If there are groups of residents or if the HOA itself wants to become involved in a more formal way, then I would urge you to do that. There will be multiple opportunities as we go through this public hearing process for you to make input in whatever way you think is most effective.
Vice Mayor.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, is there a comment now by Anthony Park?
Yeah, and I appreciate you allowing me to speak, even though I didn't know about the formal process. I'm a resident of Litchfield Greens. I also sit on the board of directors with John Connolly for the community. And I just wanted to echo what John said about wanting to be involved in the process. I think, a couple of months ago when it was communicated pretty broadly about the truck restrictions about the annexation of Camelback Road and the truck restrictions being put in place. And there was widespread cheering, amongst the community that had happened. And now that it looks like that's being stayed, I don't think that has been communicated within the community, and nobody's been given an opportunity to express their disagreement with that approach. So I just want to, like I said, I just wanted to echo John's sentiments that we'd like to be involved and like to help in trying to keep those truck restrictions in place.
Thank you for your comments, Anthony. I don't know if you were on this meeting when we first started it, but I will restate at least in part what I had told the council when we started, and that is that, and the council has had other discussions, maybe a week or so ago, about this same topic. The effort to stop Litchfield Park from enforcing its through truck restrictions on Camelback was an effort that was put forth by the Arizona Trucking Association and the Rock Products Association, both of which who each have substantial influence and contacts at the legislature. They went through a process in which there was no public process, no hearings, no input. There was no opportunity for anything that would have, at the end of the day, it would have resulted in a legislation being adopted at the by both the Senate and the House that would have attempted to restrict our ability to regulate trucks on Camelback at all, in any way, to any shape or form. We've had approximately 10 days to try to stop that legislation from being enacted, and it was not a situation where there was any opportunity or to have input from our residents. There literally was no opportunity to go to the legislature and speak to them about it. And there were a few legislators that were willing to vote against it, but the counting that we did with the number of people who were willing to vote for it indicated that the legislation was going to pass. So we were able, through a variety of informal means, to get the Senate President to agree to a compromise that stopped the legislation from being able to be passed. And as you know, as I can tell you, that you can't imagine the number of hours that we spent arguing over every word in this resolution, literally every word. And we finally got down to the point where the last 2 or 3 words, I told them we would not change the words, that it was not going to be, I would not support it. I wouldn't take the resolution to our council. So eventually, throughout the day, the Senate President has met with the Arizona Trucking Association, and they're still not happy with it, but she basically has said there will be no legislation on this issue this year because this resolution is adequate. So it is the best that we could get given the situation that we're in, and it was not a situation that allowed for public input. That's the bad news. But
right?
What's that?
The legislature was in session.
Yeah, the legislature is in session, but they're going out of session. They're already overtime. They would like to have been out a week ago. So there's very little time to deal with the legislature on this. But the process that's going to be followed in the future, and that's part of this agreement with the legislature, is a very public process in which there will be opportunities for a variety of citizen input, and we will have data that will define exactly what the problem is. So we will be in a much better position to explain to people why we need to have these restrictions, why they're important, which we're not in that position today. So thank you for your comments, and I don't know if Mr. Sovich, are you here, Joe Sovich? I'm going to assume that his comments are the same as Mr. Connolly's and Mr. Parks.
Thanks for the opportunity, Tom. And again, we'd love to be part of the process. We're here to help and set up those lines of communication so we can get you guys the information that you need.
We'll definitely do that. Okay, at this point, we do have a need for several executive sessions. Under item number 10, both B, C, D, and E. When we get done with executive sessions, we will come back and have this final business item of 9E. That business item is the resolution. It will be considered for adoption by the council. So there will be a piece of business done after we come back from executive session, which is unusual for the procedure or process that we normally try to follow. So you're welcome to stay around. When we get done with the executive session, everyone will be admitted back into the meeting through your Zoom connections. So if you're still here If you're still here, then you'll be back, you'll be allowed to come back into the open meeting, and we will consider number 9E, which is Resolution 22-521. With that, is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor of moving to executive session, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Yeah, you guys need hearing aids, all you do is take them out, you sleep like a baby, I'm telling you.
Okay, how are we doing with getting the public back into this?
My snoring is louder than any truck.
I was just
You're good to
amazed
go.
on it. Good to go, all right.
All right.
So the
You're safe.
regular meeting of the city council is back in session. We decided to obtain legal advice on Title 28 and then come back into session and consider this resolution 22-521. Then we're going to go back into executive session to do the rest of our executive session items. So is there a motion to adopt resolution 22-521, which is a temporary stay on through truck restrictions on Camelback Road?
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion, any questions or discussion anybody on the council would like to have?
My only question would be the time. How long does this stay? Just like 1 year from tomorrow? Or
Approximately a year. I mean, it stays until we can go through and do the things we said we would do.
Okay.
Which is in the resolution, but basically it says we're gonna go and get this data. We're gonna have meetings with ADOT, MCDOT, Glendale, Goodyear. We're gonna have meetings with our residents. So there's a whole process that we're gonna go through.
Okay.
Once we get this data, which we have assumed will take about a year.
And the data, do we have, are there people, or would it be through ADOT or something like that that's going to help us to?
MAG is gonna put together a study for us.
Okay.
We are working now on what's called the scope of work.
Yes.
Where we'll define what data MAG is gonna go and capture.
Okay.
And we will try to make sure that we select, they have what are called on-call consultants. So people that they can contract with just at a moment's notice.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna try to make sure that we select a consultant from their list that will be an objective consultant, because there's not all of them are.
Okay.
And just to clarify, so that there's no, so it's open to allow for all that information to be gathered and stuff. It specifically says the stay shall remain in effect so long as reasonably necessary to provide adequate time for the affected parties to conduct good faith discussions and negotiations directed at reaching a consensus.
Perfect. So if somebody asks us about that, as far as, what's the input? Well, it's gonna take as long as it's gonna take.
Yeah, it's gonna take time for us to adequately get the data.
Right.
And then have meetings that are gonna be contentious, quite frankly.
Yes, they are.
With an idea of eventually coming to some sort of a consensus, that this is the path we're gonna, that everybody can agree to.
Okay.
And if we can't agree, then we'll go back to fighting.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion to adopt 22-521, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Now, is there a motion to go back into executive session for items 10, D, and E?
Second.
All those in favor of going back in executive session, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Like a, aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're back in executive session. We will not do any further business when we come out of executive session. So while you're welcome to wait, all you're gonna hear us do is adjourn when we get back in. We're good? Okay, call the regular meeting of the city council back to order. We have one more item of business that's very important. Who wants to make a motion to adjourn?
We all do.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Good night, guys.
Good night.
Thanks for late.